Alrighty, so it's connected, it's sending off the stuff, and I've labeled this Learning the Immelmann Razrusha. So, hello Rar. For those that don't know him, he is one of my mods, and a longtime supporter of the channel. He's been exceedingly generous, I think with tier 3 subs for I don't even know how many months at this point. So, he had mentioned that he wanted to kick up his win rate in carriers a little bit, and he had gotten the Immelmann, but he has not taken it into randoms. So I cannot guarantee that we will get wins, but we can at least try to set up for success. So first off, what we're going to do is go over the foundational kind of stuff. So I'd actually like you to click on the armor layout, if you would, in port. Yeah, so some things to notice about this. As far as the armor goes, your weak points are the nose of the ship, as in like the very tip of the nose. That's 19 mil, so that can receive HE pens from DDs. And then you've got basically 21 mil and some 25 kind of behind the secondaries. So you can take some HE pens, but you have a lot of 100 mil that's going to shatter HE shells. And then your deck is 50. So you can absolutely get farmed at range. You don't have the decks of like a Midway or a Hakuryu, but you do have protection against AP shells, and whether you're angling your side or bouncing shells at range, but you are vulnerable to larger caliber HE. One other thing is look at concealment. So if you'll notice, your air detection is worse than your surface detection. I think it's because you're you have secondaries that can go out to a pretty considerable distance, something like 11 kilometers or whatever, if you spec for it. But, so planes can give a heads up that, oh no, the secondary boat is coming. But it's still worth knowing, because if you're against battleships or other things that really have that long range HE, they can rip right through your deck. And CV sniping is, it takes a long time. It's a long investment, but if there's a Conqueror, if there's a Montana, if there's a Kremlin or something that throws some HE at you, and before you know it, chunk, there goes a quarter, chunk, there goes another quarter. Taking a CV from full to dead is a lot different than taking a CV from half to dead. So it's completely okay. You don't have to, hide behind an island and run off the side of the map. But it's absolutely something to be concerned about, because if you start getting chiseled down, then the enemy CV is going to start coming for you. In terms of Citadel, you do have a turtle back, as you see there, so it's very unlikely that cruisers or anybody are going to take you out, although battleship guns can still rip through. But you're very protected against Citadel damage. It's just that you're going to get worn down by the 19, the 21, the 25 mil sections, or eventually from fires. Not really going to go over secondaries. Secondaries are kind of a meme. If you want to dive into it, by all means, have your fun, but that's not going to be the purpose of the ship today. So let's look at equipment. Kind of start at the start. So for the equipment, you'll notice you have 2 armaments. Now, full disclosure, Raz has mentioned that he's been playing around in co-op, so I mean, he's familiar with the ship. This is not like it's completely brand new. But there's torpedoes and there's skip bombs, and we need to recognize what do those armaments mean for. The torpedoes are actually the secondary armament, even though they're listed first. The skip bombs are the primary armament of the Immelmann, because really Wargaming was using it as a vehicle to test skip bombs before they came out on the Russian CV line. So we're going to do a little stuff in the training room just to make sure we've got the fundamentals down, but the skip bombs are the things that you're going to live off of. The torpedoes are interacting with battleships that are heavily armored and potentially trying to get people to turn. So as far as the upgrades go, first 2, just pick the plain ones. If you were doing a secondary build, your first upgrade might be Damage Con, but we're not worrying about that per se. Slot 3. There's secondary battery, there's additional torp time, there's torp speed. Now these are Graf Zeppelin torps. They're not fast, and their arming distance is unpleasantly long. So torp speed's not necessarily a bad idea, but the Immelmann has secondaries that don't suck. So I tend to do what you've done, which is put the secondary battery modification, because it's going to allow me to shoot at ranges that literally don't exist without that module. Whereas Aerial Torp Mod 1 makes them go faster, but you just lead a little more and it's fine. So I think it's giving you something you don't have is better than just doubling down on something that doesn't matter. For slot 4, I see Skip Bomber Health. Completely agree with that because Skip Bombers are the primary armament of this carrier. So completely cool with that. You could take Torpedo Health if you wanted to because it interacts with the heal, but I would not because I'd see them as a backup weapon. And as many Skip Bombers can live, the better. Slot 5, I see you have Consumable Mod up. I'm going to ask why. Were you looking to do this in a competitive setting, or was there a specific reason as to why you took it?
Normally, I like the increased engine cooling and the better heal, or the longer heal, I guess,
Okay.
because you can get to places faster if
So,
you've got the engine cooling up and the repair party up
okay.
longer.
Makes sense. Definitely good in a competitive situation because it's also going to make your fighters last longer too. And the Immelmann has a deficit that it only has, I think it's either 8 fighters, possibly 10, or maybe it's 6, possibly 8. I'll eventually figure that one out when we go into the commander. But okay, well, it's 8. So it starts with 8, it could go up to 10. So you're actually at a fighter disadvantage relative to other CVs. But anyway, so I would not take Squadron Consumable for randoms. Randoms, you're going to have 12 enemies, whereas ranked or co-op or clan battles, you're going to have less. You're going to have 7 or you're going to have 9. And trying to get the shot, trying to interact with people, you're going to lose planes, and you're going to need to fast cycle them. Now, it's worth knowing that on the Immelmann, those skip bombs, you regen about 1 a minute, but you can lose one in like a second and a half. They can die super quick. So I want you to go for flight control mod for the purposes of this coaching session. But I do agree with you on the consumable having the more speed. Speed is life on a German CV, so sure. And the longer heal is definitely very nice too. But we're going to go with the more resources for now. In slot 6, there's speed and then there's health. And on this, there's only one choice. It is speed. Because skip bombs interact with speed. So having more speed in slot 6 means your planes go faster, means they throw skip bombs further, means you have the ability to siege, which we're going to double down on in the commander. So let's look at the commander spec. All right, so you have just completely left this one blank. Cool. So let's go ahead and get the base 9-point build for every CV in the game. More, faster, healthier. Now that is incorrect. Okay, so first thing, let's go ahead and just reset them all. So I'm going to walk you through how I would build this, especially if you were building a commander to become your Immelmann commander. So first off, you're going to go with the one that's got the yellow triangle on the top row. That is air superiority, which is minus 5% regen. It's not going to give you lots of additional planes, but it's going to release the resources sooner. So it might be 2 seconds sooner the first plane, 4 seconds sooner the next plane, 6 seconds sooner the next plane, because it's just going to move the timetable up across the length of the match, and that could be the difference between getting a strike off if you end up having 5 planes versus having 3. So air superiority, or sorry, supremacy is the first point. Next one is improved engines. You'd selected that one. That's a 2-point, not improved engine boost, improved engines. It's a 2-point skill. And then going down to the third, there are 2 that have the yellow triangles. We're going to be getting both of those. That's survivability expert and aircraft armor. Both of those are going to keep the planes hopefully alive because these planes are extremely low health. That's the base 9-point build for every CV in the game. Only modify that if you feel that you're super experienced on it. Now this is where it gets a little sus. So if you look, as far as the yellow triangles go, the recommended build, there's bomber speed, there's proximity fuse, there's reduced flak. The torps are a secondary weapon. They're not a primary. So I don't actually prefer to put points there. That's me. Everybody's gonna have their own version of the carrier. I get it. And then also there is a yellow triangle in the flak reduction, the damage reduction section, which can matter in coordinated flak environments. Because in clan battles, when you're going against Russian CV or Russian AA, just everywhere, by the time you're able to drop those bombs, you are walking into a flak cloud, and it's kind of like you're playing a game of chicken. Are you going to ride it out until you get that drop or not? But in randoms, it is much less coordinated. It is much less likely to come into issue. So we're not going to get proxy fuse. We're not going to get flak. What we're going to get is bomb speed, which is all the way in the bottom left. Because the faster the skip bombers go, the further they throw the skip bombs. That works together. And then we're also going to get pyrotechnician, or what used to be called demolition expert. Now with this, we have 5 points remaining. So this is where you can start to kind of accessorize to do what you want to do. Did you want proxy fuse? Did you want increased secondary range? Did you want flak reduction? Did you want sight stability? You know, these are going to be a personal choice, and honestly, you can pick what you want to pick. One of the weaknesses of the Immelmann is going to be that it has a reduced amount of fighters, so you could pick up fighters if you wanted to with a 2-point skill. I wouldn't invest heavily in fighters, however, because that's not to say that it's a bad choice for the 2-pointer. I wouldn't invest into interceptor and enhanced reactions and all that stuff because you have less consumables than other people do. So, I mean, technically, if you're bringing the Immelmann, you're bringing the Immelmann to hurt things. You're a pressure CV, not a air supremacy CV. In this case, I mean, you can pick whatever you want, but I would like you to take one of those points and put it into improved engine boost, which was the skill you chose earlier, because you're going to be using boost all game. So having a little more of it is nice. And really, at this point, just feel free to pick whatever you'd like, and that'll be a-okay. So cool, you go ahead and master that. We're going to hop into a training room and just go over some fundamentals to make sure that we know that we're using our armament the way that we want to use it. So training battle, ocean, I think it's like arms testing, whatever. Your cool armor resilience test, rockin'. 20 or 30 minutes is perfectly fine. Create. Well, no, you do want, you want some players, so you have enemies to shoot at, so. Okay, so over on the Bravo team, I'd like you to add, let's add some Kobrosks, because they're going to have terrible detection, so we might actually be able to see them. So 2 or 3 of those, please. They don't have to be armed or any of that stuff, that's fine. And battleship of your choosing, just as long as we can see it at range, that's all that matters.
It's the worst detection to car first.
I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. Any battleship will do. Cool. And let's also do a few cruisers as well. How well does this build mesh with or not the Lowenhart and Zeppelin? It has nothing to do with the Zeppelin. Because the Zeppelin doesn't really start fires, and the Lowenhart, no. That's fine, and we can go ahead and ready up and go into the battle. There's a question from chat.
That's fine.
I mean, I guess it's workable with the Zeppelin, but I'm not mentally concepting it out at the moment, Ensign, because I'm in the middle of doing this. So let's hop in, and all right, so first off, we're gonna do just some skip bombing stuff. First things first, the skip bombers have multiple lines. I'm sure you've used these a few times. Which line do you use to hit a destroyer?
Well, I mean, you'd want to use the last line, but you have to normally use the first or second.
So ideally the second, because the second is going to have an entry vector that's, kind of semi-flat to the water, as opposed to dropped off the planes, which is going to be much sharper and less controlled. And then it's also going to have an outbound vector, so you could drop going. You could hit it going in. You could hit it going out, basically. So the second line is ideal for DDs. Then for cruisers, what line is ideal for that one?
I'd say the third one, because flak.
Yeah, it is. It is the third one. Because cruisers are going to be a much larger source of AA, and the amount of health on your plane sucks. So realistically, that's just what you're going to be using. So what I'd like you to do is go ahead and find a nice broadside hit. This is angled, so try to get a better broadside on one of those Des Moines and be able to burn in and make a drop at the max line. And ideally, I want you to start your attack around 8 kilometers and just slam it to the floor. So you're going to go full speed, which is like 240 something. Cool. And you put the line just behind the ship. That's a little on the ship or maybe next to it. Cool. So we get some hits. We got all 4 hitting. That's great. Ideally, you want it just behind the ship. And the reason why is because some of those bombs are going to fall short of the line. Some of them are going to go further than the line. And the ones that fall short, we still want them to hit. And the ones that go further, we still want them to hit like the deck. And if we aim just a little behind the ship, then we're also hoping to jump over the belt armor.
Oop, I don't even arm this one. Oh, no, got it off.
Yep. So you've got some good runs there. Cool. There's 4. Nice. Go ahead and recall and take out a new bunch of skip bombs. So we're going to practice a siege mechanic on a CV in the next run. But just to understand what the siege mechanic is, we're going to start in around 7.5, 8 kilometers and burn in full speed. And as soon as you make that drop, you need to slam on the brakes and hard turn away from AA. And then basically halfway through the turn, you're going to slam on the gas again and just get out. And that's going to be what a sieging run is, because that's going to dip you briefly into AA. So you're slamming on the brakes, and now you're accelerating, you're getting out. Okay, so cool. You need to brake a little more before you slam on the gas. But ideally, we're just like touching a toe in that 3.5 to 4 kilometer range, so that we're really not losing much in the way of assets. And also, if we end up sieging down a CV, we won't be close enough to trigger the fighter. All right, so now that there are some Kabbas, and we know that there are some Kabbas, let's try to make some strikes on them. You don't have to go super fast for this, but it's just worth placing the reticle on them. And this is way too far, so this is not going to matter. Just, I mean...
I'm gonna get over him and place a fighter so I can see him. Oh, well, that was a recall. Never mind.
By behind the ship, do you mean beyond? Yes, so the reticle on a CV can quote-unquote, like, it can X-ray vision through a ship. You can see it even through the metal, through the whatever. They changed that a while ago. It's no longer visually obscured by the ship. So yes, you would put the line on the opposite side of the ship from you, just next to it. So instead of being on the water line on the side that you see, you would put the line basically on the water line of the ship where the water's kissing the hull on the opposite side of the ship. So if you want to think of it as beyond, I say behind because I'm looking at the ship and the line is behind the ship. Or at least that's the placement of it. So if you take a long drop, then there's the possibility that it falls short and just bloops in the water. Also, there's going to be more time for it to have that interaction. The second drop, theoretically, again, gives you an entry and an exit. So it's more likely you're going to have that hit. And if you want to bomb a DD one more time, A. And then lastly, we're going to hit the Vermont, and we're going to try to make sure that we're getting, well, as many pens as possible.
It's just kind of angled, but
Cool. So some of them will drop a little short and bounce up into it. Some of them will drop a little long and they'll do otherwise. Maybe they altered the Immelmann's reticle, or maybe the Kabba's a little short. I don't know. But we're going to strike the Vermont now. And big thing to remember with battleships is that battleships have extremely thick belt armor. So we can't aim for that. We have to aim for the thinner armor that's between the belt and the deck. I can't think of the name at the moment right now. Casemate or something? Upper casemate? Anyway, which means you have to put the line behind the ship more than you would for a cruiser. Almost like where the deck is and you're seeing through it is about where you place it. So where you did was just fine. You got 3 with 1 shatter. So that place was pretty much dead on. So it's not that you have a reticle that you're actually aiming for the part of the ship that you're looking for per se. It's more that you're trying to put the line so that the bombs are still in the downward arc heading toward the line, and they will smash into the deck, the superstructure, the upper side of the ship, stuff like that. So one more drop on the Vermont, and then we're going to hop back to the training room. So it's a little far out. You really want to start your attack around 7.5 to 8. Don't rush yourself, because you have time, but you don't have a lot of time. So you want to be able to give yourself time in case you have to speed up, slow down, do whatever you're going to do. So let's hop back to the training room and let's add a carrier. And I'd like you to make the carrier armed. You don't have to take the other ships off the field. The CV should still be placed in such a way that you can interact with it. And it'll send some planes over to get murdered in your flak, so there won't be any interesting stuff happening there.
we want a midway.
Sure. Midway's fine. And armed, yes. Cool. So Midway's going to have some AA interactions. So we get to see some of the little particles and stuff. But we're going to practice the sieging mechanic in on a Midway. You don't have to aim for the upper belt per se. Well, I guess you kind of do. You're basically going to place the reticle in the same spot as you did on the Vermont, because there is
Oh,
some
belt.
belt on the midway. But the sides that are not the belt are, destroyer thickness. They're terribly armored. And the goal here with the siege mechanic is that you are going to come in from 7.5 to 8 kilometers. You're going to go full speed to get your reticle as extended out as fully as possible. Make your drop. As soon as you make your drop, you slam on the brakes and you hard turn to either left or right. And then you're going to accelerate out. And if you do this correctly, you'll lose half of a plane to one plane, which means you can then circle right back around and do it a second time. And then theoretically, if you wanted to, having lost another half to one plane, do it a third time to get, 10 or even 11 bombs thrown that way. And also, the other thing is you have to make sure that.
Vermont in the way.
Do what?
Because of Vermont in the way. So I have to strike from like here.
Well, whatever. I mean, it's a big enough target that you can strike. It'll be okay. Or you could strike between the Vermonts. There's a small line there as well. But the big thing is you're going to be trying to take some AA, but not enough to kill more than one plane. Now that's a little low. That's aiming for the water line. So we got 2 shatters and 2 hits, and we lost almost one plane. Now we lost one plane. So what you're doing here is this is trading resources. You're trading one plane for 4 bombs. Granted, not all of them hit, but the shot of 4 bombs. And if you were instead, a newer player that was going in super hard on this and you're dropping with the second line or the first line, well, then you're losing many bombs. So that's going to be a huge difference. But big things to remember here is that your speed is incredibly important and your boost is incredibly important. So having the ability to strike without attracting the attention of the fighter is massive. And while we're thinking about this, the way that the midway would protect themselves is not to put a fighter between you and the midway where you are, it's to put a fighter out where you were, so that the fighter would latch as you were coming in on a sieging strike. It would have to put that fighter out at a distance to prevent that broadside interaction completely, which ironically is the same thing that you would do with a Russian CV, is to know that it's a broadside only interaction. And that leads me to the weakness of the Immelmann. Every single drop you make is broadside oriented. So if the enemy just faces their broadside to the other side of the map and puts an island between you and them, yes, you can use the first line on the skip bombers to try to drop, but it's extremely inaccurate. It's not fun. So, and you're going to lose a lot of planes because you're going to go all the way into short range AA so that you can get hurt, which is just slow. So here we go. Now, if the player was here, you triggered the fighter, so you got too close. Might as well recall and try again. If you get out before the fighter shoots, which maybe it did, I don't know. If you get out before the fire shoots, then the next fighter would be cycled up, but there's a 40-second cooldown in between. But that's if you're not triggering the fighter, then you're doing it correctly. So the goal is hit them with taking as minimal amount of losses as possible, but recognize that it takes you 8 kilometers of open water, no ships in the way, no islands in the way, no nothing in the way for you to be able to siege like this. You're not always going to get this opportunity. That's a little too deep. Well, you didn't trigger the fighter, but that was a little too deep. That was a little too far. But good job on the 4 hits. So great for damage. Just a little concerning as getting close to the fighter. But I mean, you pulled it off. So as much as here I am worrying about it, everything went fine. So it was great actually. Woo! Congratulations, a winner is you. So recognizing the broadside limitation is going to be very big, because that's going to be something that you have to mentally understand, that if there are ships that they don't show you a broadside, or they've got friendlies on their broadside, you're not going to have that interaction. You can't choose that target. You have to choose something else. All right, let's go ahead and use the torpedoes just so we can see them in action. There's nothing going to be too crazy about this, but I would like you to torp one of the battleships, preferably at range, and then after you've done that, swing over, follow through and torp the CV. So you'll need to torp the battleship a little early and potentially let the torps continue on their way, because you will have a small reload timer. You can see how far you go. And at this point, you're completely slamming on the brakes. Shit, 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 shit. And the fighter slats. Shit, 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 shit. And you get to drop. So, the big thing to remember here, German planes are fast. And having that reload is not a joke, because you will travel multiple kilometers between strikes. And I want you to lift off with the torpedo bombers and hit H. So if we look here, we have squadron reformation time 5 seconds. Go ahead and recall. Now hit the skip bombers. That one has a 9-second reform. So there are a lot of times where it's like you might want to hit something and then hit something again, but you don't get that option. You just don't, which really sucks. There's a question from chat, something I never figured out. Is it generally better to cancel the bomb animation when striking CVs or use the slingshot mechanic when possible? So Jay Conus, let's go ahead and do one more run on a CV with the skip bombs. And we're going to talk about that. So as we watch this run, the skip bombs are going to come in. Well, unfortunately, you're going to end up killing the Midway. So let's bomb the Vermont next to the Midway. How about that? No, the one that's next to it, north of it, in front of it, because we need to be close enough to touch the AA.
There, hold up.
Yeah, so Haas. There we go. The Haas, the one that's the furthest out. So unfortunately,
on the Midway or on the Vermont.
Do what?
There's no AA on the Vermont active.
There isn't, but you'll be close to the Midway, so we'll get to at least experience some. At least that's the hope.
Ah, I see why you want that one then.
Yes. So, so we're gonna strike the Vermont. And we're going to... Well, damn it, there's a fighter there. Why don't we just reload the training room? Because that'll just be easier to do this. So we'll just do that. We'll reload the training room. Okay.
I know what you're going to talk about, like the map animation, how it's like you're zooming away while the strike is attacking, I guess, or something. That's the animation.
Not necessarily. So, okay. Or maybe, I don't know. But I'm going to try to answer the question because it's a little additional information that's useful.
Yes.
So the skip bombs are going to be heading toward the carrier. They're going to be zooming in at 240 something in their attack run. While they're in their attack run, they're going to start breaking into the AA barrier of 6 kilometers. And at this time, you're going to see the health on the plane start to get chipped. It's not going to be huge because it's long range AA, but they're going to start taking some damage. As you get closer, the skip bomb drop is around 4.5, 4.4 kilometers away from the Midway. Now, Midway, I believe, this is conjecture, I think it's 4 kilometers on its mid-range before it like kicks up from, I don't know, say 150 damage a second to like 700 or 800 damage a second, something big. It's a big jump. So if you drop at 4.5 kilometers, those skip bombs are going to take just a little bit. They're going to skip whatever. There's just a little bit of time before they're dropped from the planes down to the water, and then they touch. And as soon as they touch the water, that camera is going to go over to find your remaining planes. And during that time, you take no AA damage. So we're going to see the run up to the Midway here. And once we're going to cross 6, we are taking damage. We're taking damage. We're taking damage. The drop, not taking damage, not taking damage, not taking damage, not taking damage, not taking damage. And there's the damage coming in there. So if we skip the animation, if we double click after we drop, we lose half a second worth of time where we're not taking damage as we're trying to get the hell out of that mid-range AA. So ideally, we want to use that animation to give us as much time to get our remaining planes out before we start getting shot again. So we are not taking damage, not taking damage, not taking damage, and now taking damage. So by the time we start taking a damage again, ideally we're outside of 4 kilometers, which means ideally we're outside of mid-range, which means hopefully we just get chiseled down half a plane to a plane. All right, so that's going to be the basics, or all the foundational stuff for this, really. And now it's the matter of just kind of figuring out how to put it in play. So let's go ahead and do some randoms. You had stated that you wanted some wins, so you probably want to flag up. If you got the flags. Do you have any questions for me before we hop in?
Nope.
So Roz has been in the channel for a long time, so he's heard a bunch of this stuff before. I think you, throw on the damage flags, secondaries as well, because I think you buffed your secondary range. You never know. That could always be a thing. I would actually go with speed and the heal flag. Outside of that, I mean, it's up to you.
Always my speed flag.
I do like the cooldowns one as well, but that's just me.
I've got enough of those. That's fine.
Cool. So,
Put a ram flag on for some fun.
nah.
Nah.
So go ahead and set that to randoms, and then we'll go off and do the thing. Hello, El Gabo.
Ooh.
So several battleships. We are against the Richthofen, but he's not going to be able to Citadel you with rockets, so it's unlikely he's going to try to hunt you.
So
But
I
there,
don't think I could pen a Grosser Kerfort's belt.
you wouldn't be able to pen any belt on a battleship. You'd be aiming for like above on the sides, but
From
realistically, you don't want to skip bomb battleships. It's nice to set fires on battleships because they burn for a lot, but you want to skip bomb cruisers if at all possible, because that's where you're going to get good relevant damage to the health of the cruiser, and you want to torp battleships. Now it's not a bad idea to throw bombs at battleships because again fires burn a lot, and if you can use the sieging strike and be able to get that first strike out, then get the second strike out, you might light a fire, they damage con, and then light a permafire. That's absolutely a valid thing, but you are correct in that you might just shatter, and that would suck. So if you're striking a cruiser, there's a lot more space to get a hit that's going to matter. Granted, the cruiser hull is smaller, but more of the side is weak to be struck. Okay, so in that case, we didn't have a broadside shot. We got a single bomb. He was able to turn. Secondly, by turning to the right, you're able to continue out with the scout, which is good. I would not worry about the Yoshino at all. He is behind an island, so for all intents and purposes, you have no attack on him. Probably want to drop a fighter just for some general information, but you could strike that Yoshino. You need to start your attack already, though, if you're going to. All right, so he is bailing. And this is going to be one of the weaknesses of the Immelmann, is that you are reliant on getting a broadside, and that's all that you can do. Okay. Game froze for a little bit. And you have 2 planes. These don't matter, so yeah. At this point, I would go with torpedoes. The reason for using torpedoes, you don't have to recall now, you're already lifted off the deck. The reason to use torpedoes is to start getting them regenning. You're going to lose planes. You're going to lose a lot of planes. So on that assumption, you want to get both sides giving you as many resources as you can over the length of the game. And secondly, we already saw what happened with the Hindis and the cruisers. When they're not under gun threat, they turn. They don't care. Battleships that are taking shots at 24, 25, 27 kilometers are very unlikely to hit. Most players aren't going to land those shots. I don't land those shots. So having a cruiser turn when they're like 6 grid squares away from the nearest battleship, whatever, they don't much care. When they start getting enjoined in actual fighting, it's a big difference. So you, in this case, Yeah, I don't know if you would siege here. I think you would fly over the Kerfers, try to strike from the other side. But
Okay.
yeah, you are in a pressure CV, so similar to the Indomitable, it is about what you do and how fast you do it. So ideally, you are finding a target after the target and just go, go, go. So if you want to be after the Kerr first, be after the Kerr first. But when taking this shot, you're at like a 20-degree angle. You know, if you flew a little bit further, it would be a 90-degree angle. And that might have been 4 hits instead of 3. But you still have another drop, which is nice. So try not to blow through all your boost, because you actually go pretty fast even when you're not using boost at 197 knots.
Do I
So
hold?
what?
Do I hold? He repaired.
Oh,
So do I hold? Yeah. So I'm gonna hold here and then see if I can set another fire.
well, get in position so that you're ready for a broadside. Don't sit at an angle. You know, set yourself up for the strike. And you could potentially drop a fighter over the Balau in the meantime to keep the sub lit if you were trying to kill some time. So too close for the long range drop, you're just going to yole it on in. Hopefully you get 3 here, and don't watch. Keep on moving. And cool, so you get a fire.
That's
Torps. Torpedoes.
you said that.
Yeah, so let's actually recall and get the torpedoes going so we can start having them regenning, because you are going to lose skip bombs. Now, if you use them appropriately and you're only losing one here, one there, one where, whatever, yeah, they're going to last a long time, and that's pretty cool. So now you know where the Balau is. You need to be dropping a fighter over the Balau to force him to either go to max depth or take shots or do whatever he's going to do. He's either on the surface vulnerable, he's in the water burning dive time at triple
He
rate.
he lit by my fighter. That fighter now.
No, no, you need to get another one. You need to get another one. He was radared. He was radared by the Petro. So you want to drop a fighter over top of him so that he's going to stay in it and go kill the Kerr first. You don't have to give a shit about the Balau anymore. He is no longer your concern for the next minute.
Because I cannot do anything to a submarine.
Literally, literally yes. So you're going to be on the Kerr first that you already wounded. You know, his damage con is still down. Don't be overly afraid to use up your boost as you're kind of moving. And also, since they are hyper lemming training, you might actually want to move your carrier forward when you can, maybe to something like E4 and use the island there. And okay, you need
I
to
don't know.
lead more because these torps are super slow. You need to turn away from the carrier. Cool. Don't be afraid to use your heal. But remember, these are Graf Zeppelin torps. They are slow. They have a really long lead to them, and they are obnoxiously slow. So you got to give much more lead than that. Secondly, you are a high velocity striker. You see how fast you come in when you're dropping your skip bombs. You're roaring in at like 250 knots. You see how fast your torpedo planes can go. So start your attacks at almost like 6 kilometers away, because you are just going to be ripping through, and you're going to take that time to aim. The Graf Zeppelin actually, it uses high velocity strikes on its torpedoes. You start your attacks at about 6 kilometers. They firm up when you're about 3 kilometers away from the target, because it takes like 3 kilometers or 4 or 3.5, whatever, to firm up. And then, cool. So that should still be roughly where he is. Now you'll be doing the sieging stuff, which is great. So he might have his damage con back up, but I mean, the more fires, the better. So get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out, get out. Cool. So you didn't trigger the fighter. Set up for the next drop.
This Kerfers probably hates me.
Well, it is what it is. He got left by his team. You know, there was nobody over there fronting for him.
So he's
So,
going to
no,
his
do
team.
not take this drop. Well, you're going to take this drop because you started it, but you need to set yourself up for success. If you're going to spend X amount of time going from point A to point B, do not accept a 20, 30, 40 degree offset drop, because all you're doing is throwing bombs away. They're never going to hit.
Get
So,
bombs with Shikishima in the back.
yeah, I mean, the Shiki is isolating. You could absolutely work on that. The Ohio is a little isolating. The Smolensk is a little isolating. You do not have the health pool to strike anything inside the pack. You have the ability to siege from the edges. You get to nibble at what strays off. So, unfortunately, that means that you are given the targets that they give you. You
Probably
don't
the
get to.
Yoshino, actually.
Well, yeah. So the Yoshino is there, perfectly fine target. You should pen that easily.
Am I getting torped?
They get knocked or whatever. The
That
Balau threw torps, so at some point he needs to be respotted. You are detected, so the Balau can see you somewhere. But you're gonna have to stay on the Yoshino for now, because the Balau isn't gonna kill you anytime soon. Or the Shikishima. Whatever you can strike, your priority is pressure. You have the ability to hurt destroyers with your skip bombs if they are
right.
spotted, because you ain't going to be able to spot them. As soon as you drop recall, 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 because if you stay in the fighter, it latches and it kills your shit.
Oh, one got out. Probably go for that Ohio.
Go for whatever is the thing. The Shikishima might end up having shots on you, and the Ohio is covered by a Smolensk, so I think it's the Shikishima right now. Go where your team is firing. If you have a choice on targets, go where your team is focusing, because you're not going to solo down a Shikishima unless it's like over the course of many minutes. All right, well, there's a fighter there, so fuck, you can't do anything there. So Smolensk it is. And don't forget that you have a heal, which you're using, so that's great. And he's just going to turn. So here, just leave, get away. Don't, well, okay, sorry, fly away. Don't recall. Fly away, because if you recall and, yeah, all your planes just got murdered. You lost 5 there to AA and flak. So if you recall in a flak zone, your planes may eat flak. All right, so when you torped the Smol, you torped the Smol because the Shiki had a fighter on it. But nobody was shooting at the Smol, so he just got to turn, which meant he got to juke your torps. So, yes, you did not want to strike the Shiki there, and I think I even agreed, hey, okay, sure, shoot the Smol. But realistically, the best choice was to wait out the fighter, because we saw that the fighter was placed 20, 30, 35 seconds prior, so the fighter's not going to last forever. And 2, because there's actual gun pressure on the Shiki, it's very likely that he's going to keep on the same course and you'll actually get torpedoes into him. Whereas the Smol that nobody was shooting could just turn and do whatever the hell he wanted to do. Although, yay, he's dead, so maybe you caused that. Alright, so we're hitting the Shiki, we're getting some bomb damage, we get a little chip, 2,000 here, 3,000 there, we get some fires. The fires are great. You don't want to back up here? You can bounce Shiki shells.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, fuck it, man. You're bow into a Shikishima. You can bounce Shiki shells. If he shoots you, he's not shooting your team. Your Conqueror's almost dead. Your Golden Liu's almost dead. Your Petra's almost dead. You've got 65,000 health and a bunch of armor. Don't be afraid to use it. So,
Nice.
Also, don't be afraid to torpedo the Shikishima. Why are you looking at the Ohio? Nobody's shooting the Ohio. Everybody's shooting the Shiki.
That's too close. Second line.
Well, one, the Ohio, how would you get to him? Because broadside, you can't strike him. There's a Yoshino on his broadside. So any shot you take is angled, which means it's going to miss. He's got 10,000 health. By the time you strike him, he loses 4, and then he gets his heal off. And it's like, you're not going to kill him, so you got to stay where the team is. Because you are, you're almost like an Indomitable at tier 10. You're constantly nibbling away at people. You set fires. You're oppressive. You're a pressure carrier. It's just constantly building. So there are some CV players that they believe the way to win in a CV is to kill your enemy faster than they kill you. Screw tactics, screw positioning, screw all of it. Kill them more than they kill you, and you'll just win by aggregate because they'll run out of health first. Immelmann lives and breathes that lifestyle. So you want to hurt them as quickly and efficiently and as repetitively as possible. Burn damage cons, get more fires. Burn damage cons, get floods. Whatever. But also do recommend that do notice that if you had torped the Shikishima and you were landing 4 torps, that's like, 11, 12,000 damage. It may not be a fire, it might be a flood, but it's more raw damage than you're going to expect out of skip bombers, because skip bombers are going to be susceptible to saturation mechanics. So as the BB is getting shot in its midsection and stuff, it's going to start to saturate out, whereas torpedoes are not. Torpedoes always deal raw damage in their way. Well, maybe that's not perfectly true. I think if you hit the nose, it's treated as an HE shell. But it's still more consistent against battleships, and since the Shiki was extremely isolated, you probably had, potentially 7 to 8 torpedoes into him per interaction, which would have been nice. So really soon, just drop a fighter and turn. What? Fighter?
Oh,
Fighter? 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 Turn? Leave? Keep leaving. Keep leaving. Keep going away from the Hindi. Keep leaving. Alright, so...
Fighter gets shot down.
Yeah, whatever. You can drop another fighter here or something just for generalized spotting, or you could save it for C. But you do want to get something that's going to give vision on their side that's not a DD. Because your DDs might smoke, they might get busy doing something, whatever.
Oh, there's defensive fire. Yeah.
So all these planes are dead. Just recall, they're dead. There's nothing you're going to do here. Torps. Remember, you want stuff regenning. You want to get as many resources as possible out. And there are definitely battleships that you can send torpedoes or to... you may not be able to hurt the Hindenburg, but you could turn him potentially in front of your Burgoyne.
Well, the mosque was letting the fire on.
So things that happened there. You started an attack run instead of dropping a fighter at A. So the fighter got placed further to the north, which meant it was closer to AA and it just got shot. We wanted the fighter over A to block the Druid from being able to come in and start capping or have interactions for free. Give up the spotting, force him to, at least be seen. You may not be able to take that shot. He might be too close. But if you're going to do it, heal. Because you're getting planes shredded. You're already down 3 just in the few seconds there. So, cool. You got one into the Druid. That's nice. Now, this line, you don't have anything that you can strike. So you can either go further up the one line to have an interaction, where you try to cut off the Smolensk or something, or hit the Druid again, but you gotta lead way more than that. You have to remember these torpedoes are slow. You can skip bomb now. There's a Shimikaze that's spotted in Bravo. If it gets... Never mind, it's dead, so we don't have to worry about that. You can possibly siege down the Smol from A, or potentially strike the the Druid, if he's going to light off his AA. Unfortunately, the Druid is actually well equipped in terms of AA in close range. I think he's got, if I remember the numbers, it's like 400 something, which is definitely enough to bully you. If you have shots on the Druid, that is great. And there's a Bilal. Cool. And get out and go to the north. You might be able to strike something. Good. 2 hits on him. Very nice.
That hurt him.
Yep. So we're always cognizant. We threw 4 bombs. We hit with 2. We lost almost 2 planes for it. So that's going to be good resource trading there. You could start to move your hull up, by the way. So when you get a chance, you'll want to do that. And yes, I agree with the Hindenburg over the Druid, unless he turned, which I don't think he did, and you couldn't even see with the flak anyway. So just recall, there's nothing to do here. You have 1 plane. Start moving up. Okay, so if we're using torps, we're either using torps to position cruisers or to interact with battleships, because the torps are obnoxiously slow. You can probably drop a fighter in the middle of Alpha to try to give like general Bilal information. Cool. Do not aim at the Hindenburg. You're going to want to come in from like the E line. So almost from Bravo would be where you'd want to come in from, so that you'd kind of bait him to turn. But I guess for some reason he's chosen death. So now if you come in here, you pull him closer to the island. The Petro is behind the island. He can't shoot through it. The Burgoyne is behind the island. He can't shoot through it. So ideally, we want the Hindi to be heading off toward Bravo, where the Napoli and the Petro could start to have shots. And that's exactly what he's doing anyway. So he showed you broadside, which was stupid. He is dead. You can work on the Burgoyne now.
Yes, sir.
I mean, the Napoli's going to shoot him, the Daring's going to shoot him, he's dead. And you can move up further with your hull to shorten your attack times. Right. So if you're going to take a drop, make it the best drop that you ever had. Approaching nose in is just going to keep the Burgone going forward, which doesn't do anything for your team. It doesn't help. Maybe your Burgone had some shells that would bite. Maybe. Or maybe if you pulled him into enemy torpedoes or friendly torpedoes like Shima torpedoes, that could be cool. So maybe if he went bow down to avoid you, he ends up eating a Shima torp. But if you're going to make a run, know in your head, what is the goal of this run? How does this make the enemy more dead? How do we make their game more fun and engaging than it ever was before? So in this case, you should not actually have turned. You should have just flown directly through. Because you are already so close to it that just carrying through allows you to attack from the other side. And we need to try to respot the Balau.
Yep. So, okay, go for that.
Hey, the Balau. We need to get the Balau. So you could just strike whatever you wanted to strike. You could do that, but you need your carrier to move up basically into A so that you can use that as a springboard to just throw planes at people. Whoa!
I had no fighters on the bombers.
Okay. Well, okay.
He's over here then. Yeah.
So he's potentially D3, D4. Because that's where you got lit. And you need to keep your carrier moving north so you can use it as a springboard to be able to attack. You want to turn further to the right. Yeah. Because he still has to maintain... Well, that fighter could have been better. Because he's just going to run away and get out from underneath the fighter. So you may actually have to stick on top of him for a moment. Because he's not going to stay lit with that. When you place that fighter, it's going to circle around a little bit. You need to either put it directly on top of the sub. Or you need to put it in the sub's line of travel. So that it's going to, he's going to go underneath the sub and be stuck underneath it. So, sucks to be, the person that's lighting this, but this is a threat. This is going to block your teammates from being able to do anything because they're going to be wondering what's up with this. The Shima obviously isn't helping. The Daring would love to help, but he's about to finish A. And then once he does, great. And plus your fighter runs out soon. So as long as you, you can hang in this area, you could redrop a fighter if you need to.
Pretty sure he dies here to the...
Well, he's at max depth right now, so when you can, you drop a fighter right where you are, which is just off the tip of the nose of the Balau, so that if he goes around or does something else, you'd keep him spotted, but maybe the Shima can handle it from here. Alright, maybe the Shima can handle it from here, so at this point we can start interacting again.
Just in case.
Cool, even better, because that'll keep him safe from CV harass. So, we've got a Colombo that's kind of like stuck between islands, which means it's very hard for us to deal with him, plus he's smoked. Maybe you can draw him further south. Can you draw him closer to the Petro? You will want to heal. The AA on this is pretty significant. So, Italian AA is really short range. You gotta lead more. You have to lead more. Every time you lead with your torpedoes, look at it and lead a little more. You got all four. He slammed on the brake because he was scared of torps, but don't be afraid to give it just like a quarter ship length more to be safe. Cool. I think you get one there. Nope, he's turning out the other way. You get all four. Because he kills the speed and he shows broadside, so he eats all of them. Nice. And secondaries. Well, cool. So that took care of that. And whatever you want to pick, because there's not a lot of enemies left, so you could really just charge with your hull over to sea. You might be pulling fire onto yourself, which is okay.
How is he not dead yet?
He took low, and there's a sub. Subs have to reload. They don't do a lot of damage.
Island 2 from the Burgonia and the Petro, so...
Yep. I mean, you could go up there to try to finish it off, but if you can find the sub, that'd be great. Giving some informational updates on the Moskva and others would be great. So...
Cool. Oh, that's a bad drop.
Well, it is a bad drop, but hopefully it keeps them at least set up and you burn hard to drop, 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 drop. So if you are about to fly into defensive fire, the answer is always fuck this, I'm out. You don't play chicken with defensive fire because you just touch the flat clouds and all your shit evaporates.
You just dead.
It's magic. Don't go in. Don't even. Well, fuck it. I guess it's worth trying. I guess.
I want to kill.
I think the line was too short. Does he turn into it? He turned into it. Nice.
Go cycling or go for the Immelmann? Let's go for the Immelmann. I have a heal left.
Well, we don't know where the sub is, and you've got 7 players to their 2, so you can really do whatever the hell you want to do at this point. Oh, okay, cool. Sub is probably
like
where
right.
those Ohio planes were.
I am not that superior.
There you go, cool, and you can fighter it.
I'm gonna wait till I get in front of him because I mean he's
Even
not like
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like you got places to be, but that is the place to go, and you could torp the Immelmann now if you want, or the MVR if you want to, because you're not going to have any interaction with the sub at all. You don't have depth charges. You set your fighter down, you spotted him, you did your job. But if you're going to strike in on the Richthofen, you don't have to pre-drop. You don't have to pre-drop here because you have a 12 plane squadron. So with that heal, you're healing 6 planes worth of health, assuming you don't attack, although you will. And then when you do use the heal after you attack, you're healing 4 planes worth of health. So you can go right in here and strike. You just need to save your heal for when you start hearing the noises and stuff. His fighter shouldn't latch you by the time you get out. Just full speed, get out. And also remember to...
lead more.
Yes, lead more. So heal, 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 heal. When you hear the gunfire noises, you need to heal so that you're not just throwing the planes away.
I guess. Well,
maybe you don't have the sound effects on. If you see the particle effects, the gun engagement, something like that, when you start seeing the damage happen on your health bar, where it starts like, putting up Christmas lights and showing all kinds of weird colors, that's bad. You need to respot the sub. He killed your battleship.
he doesn't kill me. Those aren't citadels.
Well, sure, they're not. But being on top of him is going to force him to the surface by keeping him lit, so he burns down his depth consumable at triple rate. So that is going to disappear any moment now, which means he's going to be forced to surface, and you can just light him so that he can say hi to your secondaries and get murdered. Unless the Burgoyne bombs nail him. Now, I do think there's a 10-second delay after his bar runs out, where he basically has like a little bit of generosity time so that he can he doesn't have to surface immediately, but his ass is going to be forced to surface, and it is now. So as long as you just keep him lit, well, you would shoot him and kill him.
Wow, both over 100,000 games.
Well, damage happens because you shoot stuff. You could have had more damage if you didn't spot the subs. You could always play more aggressively, and the more that you get used to the carrier, the more that you're going to try to find the aggressive plays. There's a person in KSD, Fuerza, who is one of the better known CV players in North America. I think he has the most Immelmann games and probably the best Immelmann stats. I mean, he's got crazy shit where he's doing 180, 200,000. He's just doing silly numbers. So he's going to find those interactions, and that's something that he's drilled himself to look for. But that's something that you're going to find when you learn how to play the carrier. What's comfortable for you. You're going to recognize opportunities, seize on the opportunities. Right now, we're just trying to assess what's going on, try to make plays relative to where we are and what we're trying to achieve, and do damage while doing it. So as long as we're focusing on, making a good foundation, then you should have, a good building built on a good foundation bears fruit. So least that's the hope. Hello, Kriegsmarine. Hello, Jaka.
So sleeping.
Okay, so you're against a midway. So you have sieging threat on a midway. Um, then Ohio, Schlieffen, Yamato, sure. Bunches of cruisers. Yoshino and Venezia, Colbert, Worcester, if they're all open water, they're going to be extraordinarily hard to hit. Moskva similar because you don't have a lot of something, a lot of aim spot for it. But realistically, it all starts with figuring out where they are, what they're doing, and what you can do in response. So,
Summary of the last two battles: use fighters to spot submarines, lead more with the torps, and cycle your resources.
yes,
Roger that. And you probably don't try to go for the midway until after the team is dispersed a little
fighter,
bit.
fighter, fighter, fighter. There we go. You want the fighter to be in A, not south of A, because south of A means that it's easier for them to shoot it down before they ever put themselves close enough to be a threat. Don't go close to the Venezia. There's no reason to bait taking early damage, especially not from a nose-in position. There's nothing to be gained by that. You never, ever want to perform 90-degree turns while in AA. If you're worried about the Marceau, you could just drop to get out. But, well, I actually think you should have dropped the Marceau. You should have gone immediately into an attack and tried to strike him, because he was showing you broadside. Yes, he had defensive fire up. The Marceau is not the end of the world. You might have a shot here if he doesn't slow down. And you want to be dropping with the second line. So high velocity striking is for targets that you see and establish that you know are there. If you slowed down, you could have had a second line shot. You would have gotten hits with that. When you drop with the first line, there's so much forward and backward dispersion that you have almost no control over what's going to happen at all. And especially shooting a nimble, thin target like that, there's just no expectation of a good hit. Could it happen? Sure. Will it happen? No. So somebody's calling a gearing on the one line. You're responding to it. Cool. Also, you're going to have a follow-up shot on the Moskva from that position, which is even better. So if you go out to the one line, don't go to the two line, because if you go to the two line, you're going to start cutting in when you get shot by AA. You do not ever want to give yourself a bad shot. So you want a fully broadside, this is the best shot I'm going to ever get on the Moskva. It's either going to force his ass to move or force him to take torpedo damage. And
Well,
yeah,
can really hit
there
him,
is no DD down here, so that they were incorrect. So this is a high velocity strike. You are not fully 90-degree broadside to this guy. Now you will be because he's moving forward, but make sure that when you're setting yourself up, you set yourself up for success. Heal, 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 heal. Good. Lead more.
More than that?
Yes.
Okay.
Now he's hard turning, which means it works out okay, but even still, I think you miss the rear torp. Do you miss 2? Yeah. Like, hell, you missed 3, actually. So,
Here.
lead more. There we go. Good. That one was better. Hopefully those 2 in the middle are going to strike him. And you have 2 planes left, so that doesn't matter. Okay.
Yep, there we go. Force him to turn broadside to the curve first.
Cool.
Or the pet.
So you're keeping up the threat. You can start to move forward. You can see your Petros claiming space, your Holland. You might want to tell to get back because he's too... No. Where are you going? So, okay. There's a Yamato in the south, so you don't want to give too much broadside to a Yamato. If you're going south, go south. Pointing at the middle of the map You have the potential of showing some side. You only have 50 mil deck armor, but it can still bounce AP shells. So just moving forward like a grid square, is enough to at least get you that much closer to the battle. If you wanted to, you could go hard for an island cover and have, something that you could actually dig in behind. It's a little too far with the line. You did get a hit, but it's a little too far. Cool, so you haven't lost any planes. Well, you lost a plane soon, but nice. Stay on him, stay on him, stay on him. Get in there. You don't have to do a sieging strike on a gearing. You just have to hit him. Now, normally, no, not. There's a lot of movement going on there, which means there's no aiming. Go for the Haragumo.
I don't think the second one hits him.
Well, you might have been able to slow down there, but it's okay. So let's go with Torps, so you can strike the Yamato. Because we want to make sure that we're rotating, and we've got a really juicy battleship target in the Yamato that we could be interacting with. Now, we might have a Colbert on top of them. You might be flying over a Haragumo, but...
In that case, updating information, so...
Yes. So, if nothing else, it's going to be hard for you to get shots in on the Haragumo, the gearing. Why? Because there's no gun pressure. There's no teammate pressure. So... when the Haragumo comes into A, drop a fighter short of A. So like in a little bit more. No, don't go on top of the Haragumo because he'll just shoot it down.
Yep.
Well, it doesn't matter at this point. Just go for the Yamato. Sorry, conflicting instructions. So if we had dropped a fighter in A, or maybe on like the 3 line or something, the Haragumo probably would have shot it down. But it would also be putting him in a position where he has to shoot it down if he wants to keep moving forward. You would turn off to the left. Good.
Yep. Okay, so all 4 of those hit.
Yes, very nice. So set yourself up for success here. Don't go in too early. You have 2 planes, so you can high velocity strike. Colbert is super hard to hit, but you can do it, especially because he's under gun threat. And don't be afraid to disperse your tarps wide, so that if he goes forward or backward, he's still going to have some kind of damage interaction. One of those torps might dink. No, you get 2. Oh, cool. Nice. Think you got 3 there?
Yes.
Cool. So I think he didn't expect you to go for him. It ended up working out really well. You caught him flat-footed. He was looking to juke shells, not juke torps. Now that you have a Wooster, you have somebody helping. So you know where they're going to be pointing their bow to, which means you know where you need to come in from the side. Do not accept bad shots. Make sure that you are making good shots. This is why Russian CVs suck, because it's not just getting to the target, it's getting to the target on the right angle. Which is, it's more. Slow down, slow down, slow down, slow down. There we go. Pull it in, get the drop, make the drop good. There we go. Now you can work on the Haragumo. You know he's going to be running away. Well, he's dead, so you don't even have to worry about it. So you can just take a shot at something that you can hit. Marceau is actually great. He's in the middle of a fight. He's not paying attention to you. Don't be afraid to slow down. It's okay to slow down. It's okay to slow down and firm up the reticle because you want every shot to be the best shot of your life.
You move up.
You had, I think, 2 planes there. I think you had 6 planes total as you went in on the Marceau, so you had a lot of wiggle room in terms of health. You could lose 2 planes and 90% of the next one before you had to make that drop to get 4 bombs out. It was a little sus with the flak, I'm not going to lie, but you were still good. So don't be afraid to slow down on a skip animation if you are not sieging. You have to use the speed in order to siege because you have to push the lines out as far as possible. But when you're going for the second line, you're going for the first line, whatever, you got to firm it up. Drop early. So in this case... okay. Now where are you going? No.
I was going to... Should have gone...
Okay, so let's talk about how you could have done that differently. You're going to drop the Venezia here, who might continue to turn into your torps. Lead more, lead more, lead more. Gotta lead more. I think he might be slowing down, but... Alright, so take your thing. In that case, when you've got a Venezia where he doesn't necessarily have gun pressure, although I think he just dies, yes, to the GK, so that's nice. GK pushed forward, he clapped him. Woot.
Torps?
Don't
No.
be... You can torp from a... You can torp bow in. You can do that. But you do not do it right next to the ship. You do it 2 or like 2.5 ship lengths out so that the enemy ship knows, ah, shit, he torped me. And I'm going to keep my bow pointed to those torps because, oh, I don't want to get hit by those torps because, ooh, taking damage is terrible. And you're going to keep him on a line so that you can swing in from the side. So you're throwing away the first strike. You're giving up on it. Where are you going? Is this target of opportunity? Kind of a little bit of panic?
Yep.
Don't be afraid to slow down to firm the reticle. If you're going to have it as large as can be, you might miss. Granted, you got 3, woot. But don't be afraid to slow down if you need to firm the reticle more. You are allowed to slow down on the skip bombers. It's okay. The only time you do not slow is when you're trying to siege from 4.5 kilometers away while you're on the outside of the AA blob. There, you got a Marceau shooting you got a Midway shooting you got all this stuff. So there's no sieging there. Maybe you were worried that your planes would die before you could drop, in which case that's understandable, but could have led a little bit more. All right, well,
He's
2 out of 3, plus he's on fire. He's having a bad day. He's probably dead. So let's look for somebody else to deal with. He dies to shell pressure or your fire. He's gone. So, cool.
This is going better than I thought it would.
Sure. Well, your mechanics are fine. You know how to make the shots. Need to be a little more patient and find the shot before you take the shot. If you just rush it, you know, that's when you get misses. That's when you're throwing away time. If you're going to invest, if you think of it like a battleship, you have battleship guns. You wait 30 seconds before you shoot. Well, you're going to wait for that beautiful shot. You're waiting, so you give it another 10 seconds. You give it another 10 seconds. You give it another 10 seconds. You give yourself 60 seconds from the last time you fired because you're waiting for a good shot. And that good shot goes behind an island, so screw it. You just take a shot at something you probably weren't going to hit. Whew. You're just wasting the ammo. Like, it's not giving you anything. If you're going to invest the time to go all the way to somewhere, make sure you're giving yourself the best interaction possible. So don't take the 20-degree offset shot. Take the dead-on shot. Take the correct shot. Force them to move. Good news is in an Immelmann, you go so dang fast that you can, find those shots. In a Russian CV, you don't go that fast. So it's much more how playable.
And this one, I'm assuming he's a priority target because it's a cruiser and it's the only one.
The only time he's a priority target is if he makes himself a priority target. If he plays stupid, you don't care about him. Skip bombs. Go, 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 go. You already wasted 3 seconds. If he takes a position that's extremely important and has to be dislodged, well, then he has to be dislodged because he's extremely important. If he goes off in the middle of nowhere to do nothing important, then who cares if he exists? Let him hump the map. It doesn't matter. You're going to be playing the situations that are before you because you have to address, threats and priorities and stuff. At least in my school of thought. I play differently than other players. Drop a fighter about here. So you're not in C, so rather than like detour, you dropped your fighter, that's going to give you spotting, go up through B. Your planes will be there for the next 50 seconds. They'll spot the battleships moving up. They might even spot a cruiser or something. You're just trying to use the speed in your planes to be able to give your team information. That's what the scouting pass is for. Well, Hargo doesn't want to shoot you. Nice. You have an idea of where he is. All right, so at this point, we've really got a good idea of what's going on. So if you want to try to go for the Kitakazi, go for the Haragumo. You're going to be going for center line. You can't go for the Kitakazi, though, because he's going behind an island.
Oh, he was over there.
Yeah, so you can refine your line, or you could strike the Des Moines, because the Des Moines you can see. So, keep your boost up and go for the Des Moines. Well, okay, if the Haruguma wants to stay lit, nope, he's turning in. It's a bad shot. Go for the Des Moines. All right. In that case, you go for. You got 2 hits, which is cool. I would say you go for the second line on that. And at this point, I think you just recall, because you're flying over everybody's AA getting shot. So the Des Moines is going to want to hide behind an island. You can torp that. You can force him out of it. You can also use your planes a little more aggressively in terms of health pool, because you have a heal. So you could spot the Shimikaze for your your daring gearing bros here. If the daring was feeling daring and walked in the direction of the enemy destroyer, he could deal some real damage to it. So, and then you're probably going to interact with the Des Moines because he's exposed, or you could interact with the FDG while he's in transition. Cool. Try to corral the Shimikaze. Get behind him with the torps. Don't let him turn out from the cap. You want your DDs to shoot him. See, now you're on top of him. Nobody cares about the fighter. You want to put torps on his left so he can't turn out. Okay. All right, so heal. I guess we had talked about the Des Moines before, but the Shimikaze is such an extremely good target that we wanted to stay on the Shimikaze until we forced him into a situation where we couldn't stay on him. So the Shimikaze was the more important target there. All right, so skip bombs, cool. Looks like there's a small contingent of people in the south. The ZF-6 is going to get murdered by the Olin, spotting him, having no friends, and taking shells from all the battleships.
The midway here, because they're all kind of in two big groups.
What?
I go for the midway. They're both in two, like, because the Odin DeGrossers are in one group, and they've got the huge group to the north.
Um,
That
well, why don't you run down to about G or H5, drop a fighter, see where the midway is. But realistically, you'd probably start chipping in on the Des Moines that's bunkering up on an island, because he's going to sit fat and happy for you to drop him. Give yourself the best shot. Do not take a 30-degree offset shot. Go in 90 degrees. Give yourself a flat broadside. Don't take this angled stuff.
now we still got 4 into them.
Which is great. I'm very happy that you did. But make sure you're giving yourself the best chance possible. Drop a fighter, go in on the Des Moines. Go in on the Des Moines. You can kill the Des Moines a hell of a lot faster than you can kill the Midway. He's closer to your CV. He's more exposed. He has less health. He has less armor. Well, does he have less armor? Probably on aggregate.
That's permanent fire.
Good. And you should have one more siege drop with 2 bombs that might light another fire. Set yourself up for success. Don't take an angle. You're going to be flying into some other AA, but you are going to be on your attacking flight, which is going to take a small damage reduction, full speed. And you can jump over the other ship to hit the Des Moines. Cool. Off you go. Torps for this. Torps for this because the FDG is pushing an alpha. Or you need to work on Charlie, because unfortunately your team decided that no flanks are the best flanks. I suppose you could work on the FTG in Charlie, or you could work on the FTG in Alpha, either or. Unfortunately, I don't think you can kill the Kitakazi.
Probably not, and he's not doing too hot.
Well,
so.
Yeah, so... Alright, so you're going to be flying over an Uland, whatever. So set yourself up for success. Good. Get yourself the broadside. Don't accept less than the best that you can. Coming in, cool. Remember, lead more. Lead more. Lead more. So you needed to lead more there. Alright, you got a heal. You can come back in and strike a second time. But notice when you full speed... Good stuff. When you were full speed, by the time you came out, so that you started taking AA again, you were 4 kilometers away. Don't be afraid to heal while you're lingering, because you're slowly going and you're slowly moving in on this. You can long drop or something, unless you really want. Nah, just drop. Drop and be done with it. You're committed. You're in AA. You've used your heal. It just is what it is. Let's go for the Kitakazi because he's exposed and he's fighting a gearing. And F3 him. You know, point out, hey guys, shoot this. Cool.
It's also just back and forthing.
Well, second line, you know, it is what it is. You see him moving, cool. FTG is pushing.
Yep.
Unless you feel you got really good chances on the Kitakazi, you probably want to swap to Torps. So take the drop, be done with it, swap to Torps. You want the best interaction possible here.
Probably gonna set a fire on the. Oh, he's already double fired. So.
Yep. Torps, 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 Torps. So the FTG has decided to present himself as a please shoot me target. Well, can do. After that, there's a Vladivostok. Unfortunately, your gearing has bailed off the Kitakazi, but the Kitakazi is just going to be farming from a smokescreen anyway, so it's okay. Looks like stuff in Charlie has stalled out because there are a wall of battleships in Bravo. Cool. Kitakazi is relit, but you can't torp that. You can fly over the AA to... Cool. So, that's also dead. Skip bombs on the Kitakazi when you can. If you want to drop torps to keep him corralled or something, he's lit. He's shooting. He's open water gunboating. He doesn't give a shit. You don't have to fight her that.
Yeah, I just wasted a fire.
Yep. And Kitakazi has significant amounts of AA. Ask for support and F3 him. You have to have that firmed up. You cannot have that wide. That is not allowed. If you're going to skip bomb this, you cannot have it firm. Like, you can't have it just spaced out all to hell. You have to have that zoned in. So you need to pick a line, stay on the line, firm the reticle. And if you have to use the brakes, you have to use the brakes. Also, try not to start your attack and wrench it over like that, the 90-degree turns. You don't really get that in the Immelmann. It's not like other German stuff where you can do that. Also, you could even just sail in the direction of the Kitakazi and get your secondaries on him, because you have secondaries. I don't know if you want to be broadside in front of a Vladivostok, though, but moving in the direction of the Kitakazi is not a bad idea. Good. It's a firmed up shot. Great. Good. Dead. Awesome. Start working on the Vlad with some torps. Great. You might have to be concerned about torpedoes, but you definitely need to start YOLOing hard with your CV now. Because if they're not going to cap, you have to. You want to go to Bravo because there's an Oland south of you. You don't want to head south. You want to go, to Alpha, up in the top left, because otherwise you're just going to be charging an Oland. Which would be great if you could spot and kill it, but unfortunately you can't spot and kill it. So he has to help you do that. Well, you don't have a fighter. So because you're broadside focused, you needed to be coming in from Alpha. But now we know where he is, so that's cool. Do not do that. So this hard turn here, that's not going to give you anything. So this is not a German carrier like that. Not at all. You do not get to do 90-degree turns in this after you hit the attack button. You have to set your line and you have to ride it out. It's often a long path, or you're going to have to slam on the brakes and just eat lots of AA. By the way, you want to heal. Try to drag your fighters up to the lion. And then you can recall. Torps, recall, torps, recall, torps. I mean, unless you're going to strike him again with 2 planes, you might as well come out with a rack of them, right?
Yeah.
So the Vlad is going to bury his nose behind that island. You don't have shots there unless you hook all the way to the south and up into the Vlad. So in this case, you're going the wrong way. You want to go south, because you're gonna hook down like a J up into the Vlad, or you strike the FTG that's in Charlie. See this close stuff where you're just setting yourself where you're taking AA for free. What you needed to do was go down the 7 line. You could strike the FTG that way, or you could wrap around underneath it to be able to strike from that direction.
I'm gonna go for the FTG. He's isolated.
Well, he's also about to have an island between you and him, so really you just swing up into the Vlad, but you need to commit to the long turn, the long time swing to it, because see, you can't torp that. He's got an island in the way.
Oh, he's dead. Well, might as well
He's not dead till he's dead,
do the
because
deal.
the Daring could have missed all of those torps. He did not, which is great. So now you can work on the FTG. Or you can spot the U-boat.
See if I get a floods on the FTG and then come back with flyers. But does he turn in here? Why would you turn in here?
Well, he wants to kill, so he's just going to charge in and kill.
Lead more. So there, he's going full speed. On the reticle, right there.
Cool, good. Skip bombs on the Des Moines. Skip bombs on the Des Moines. Skip bombs on the Des Moines. Because the FTG has a lot of health. You hit for 10k. Great. That's another 4 to 5 strikes to kill him. Des Moines is open water. You can absolutely work on the Des Moines. And hopefully, it'd be great if we could find out where that damn sub was. Give yourself the best shot. Do not strike at an angle. Strike at a broadside. There we go. Now you're going to have a little island interaction, which is going to suck, but you're still setting yourself up for success here, which is good. Nice job on the siege. Aimed a little too far behind the ship, which is why your bombs went over it. So do pay attention to that. And at this point, it's going to be a little tough because you're going to have the island between you and him. You want to start having your carrier pointing more into B when you get the chance to change it. You're not trying to run your carrier to the edge of the map. You might actually want your carrier being shot. Okay, could have led a little more. Recall. You're going to lose planes here. So skip bombs. Turn your carrier starting south. You want to be in A, but you want to be able to start brawling with secondaries and potentially angled follow-up fire. Good news, the FTG is not long for the world. Bad news is you're at a points deficit and there's a sub. Holy shit, the sub lit himself. What? Okay. Well, that's cool.
Whoop, that's
Nope, that's fine, actually, because the bombs will just bounce up into the side of the hull. So, it's okay. You were able to rescue it. You do actually want to go to the south, not where the island is. You want to go where the open water is so that you have a clean strike.
he get the daring? Yes, he did.
Also, spotting the sub is... Don't linger on the sub. You have to deal with the Des Moines.
This is a bad drop, but I have to take it because
you don't have other ones. It's okay. It's understandable. Also with... okay, in the future, use the second line there. Don't go with the fourth line. Go in, line it up, get the second drop. Don't go with the final one. Skip bombs are correct. And good, you have secondaries. Great. You need to get skip... Well, the torpedoes are fine. Torpedoes are fine. You need to get on top of that sub. You need to get on top of the sub. Your secondaries kill the Des Moines. You have to get on the sub because you have a points problem here. Good news is the Bart's probably going to sit on Charlie soon, so as long as you keep the sub lit and he doesn't kill your Bismarck, then that's going to be good times, and you just saw this thing. So as long as it's not able to get its depth capacity back, it's going to be open water, and even better, it's going to eat secondaries from the Bismarck if it's on the open water. Speaking of, you could send your carrier down the 3 line and bait fire off of the Bismarck. Because you have a better damage con and all that stuff. Alright, so he just ran out of depth capacity. So it's going to be a 10-second timer before he's forced to surface because reasons. And really you just hold down on the A or the D key and just spin in circles over top of his head. I mean, that's as deep as it gets, really. So pretty soon he's going to start going up. It might be a 30-second timer. I think it's a 10. I don't know why there's a little like bonus timer. Also, it is a U-boat, so he might have a consumable that's doing it. Is he surfacing? Because I can't see. It
No, he's
keeps...
nope, he's at 24. He's holding at 24.
Well,
So he's using his consumable. But I mean, that only has a 30-second, and I mean, we've got 3 minutes, so he dies. He doesn't live through 3 minutes. Unless he kills the Bismarck here.
well, that's why your carrier is moving up, so that you have secondaries on this. So you don't have to torp this. You just have to keep it lit for your secondaries and his. But it's a trade, so cool. Yeehaw. Did you have fun?
Yeah, this is going much better than I thought it would.
Why'd you think it'd go bad?
I before this, I had like a 46 or like 36% win rate in carriers.
Well, there's mechanics and then there's decision making, right? So mechanics is going to be the first part because I mean, if you're in a cruiser and you can't aim, then all you're going to do is miss. So that's no good. If you're in destroyers and all you're going to do is you can't aim, then I mean, you could still be influential in a way by spotting and taking caps and stuff, but if you're going to lose every brawl, if you're going to miss every torp, your impact correspondingly goes down. And in a carrier, you are a battleship. You are. You're just a battleship that fires even more slowly. You don't hit as hard, but your shells are more accurate. They're guided, just like a submarine. It has homing torpedoes. Well, you have homing weapons. And anybody that's gonna cry about my use of words on that one, I don't care. The long and the short of it is, you, the player, are guiding your weapons to make them extremely accurate. So it's the question of where you're going to use that weaponry, how you're going to use that weaponry, how you're going to use the spotting from that weaponry to enable your team and to make plays and stuff. So I'm really glad that, you're rocking 100% win rate. It's not going to last because that's just the reality of the situation. The best CV players in the world, all like 3 of them can achieve 80% win rates, which is amazing. But then you start getting into, well, the next 20 or 100 or whatever that start going into the 76s, 75s. Then you start getting into the next X that go even further than that. So realistically, you're going to play it. You're going to do the best you can. Destroyers are going to be extremely frustrating because you can't kill them. You can't walk over and take down a DD because it can just turn and your skip bombs will slip, glide by it. Your torps will glide by it. So you have to make sure, especially in this carrier, that the targets that you are attacking are pinned down by teammate interactions. Because if they don't want to show you their broadside and nobody's going to punish them if they turn, then they just don't show you their broadside and you don't get anything. You've wasted your time. So yeah. Well, do you have any questions?
Oh, sir, I think I have an idea of what I'm doing now, so.
Yeehaw. Alrighty. Well, then I am going to stop the coaching stuff. I traditionally take questions from chat. If you'd like to be around for that, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I'll just cut off the stream. And then once chat is done asking me questions and stuff, I will end the stream. And I don't know, I might play something else for a few hours. I don't know. But, so, going over to chat. Thank you, Zavi says, very instructive. Ensign says it was fun. Good job, says Crimson J. What are the different uses for the skip bomb lines? Okay, so the furthest skip bomb line, Angelic, is going to be for sieging. It's going to be for striking outside of significant AA ranges. So you go very fast. You're going to use that far line so that you're dropping it around 4.5 kilometers away from a ship. So you're outside of mid-range AA. Also, the last line is theoretically the most accurate, as I guess the bombs have the tightest cluster. So there is that as well, but you have the most lead time by dropping the line that's the furthest away. The second line is going to be for having an in and an out interaction. So the first line is very unaimed. The second line is more aimed. in that it's a tighter grouping, kind of, and it has an in and an out interaction. So it's got 2 chances to interact with a ship. And then the front line is basically the Hail Mary line. It's the I'm dropping over an island because somebody is just like bunkered up and I have no other shot on them. So you come over an island and you take a drop on the first line. Or it's the Hail Mary line. It's not something that you want to use because it's extremely inaccurate. There's a lot of forward-backward dispersion, so the bombs are just kind of everywhere. Are there any other questions? Any other questions from chat? Don't need to be shy. Alrighty. Well, if that's the case, if nobody else has questions, then I'll go ahead and wrap this up. I will. Unfortunately, Twitch is not communicating very well with YouTube at the moment, so I'll have to clip this out, I guess, with some video editing software and throw it up to YouTube. But it will be up on YouTube for whoever wants to watch it. So, okay. As for me, I think I will play something maybe in 30 minutes to an hour, because I don't think I'm going to fall asleep at 10 o'clock. I might end up falling asleep at midnight, so I might do some Battletech. I might do something else. By the way, if you like Battletech, if you've watched some of my Battletech streams and you've enjoyed it, it is on sale, or at least it was like yesterday. So normally it sells for like $50. It sells for $12 right now. It's 75% off. So if you're interested in picking up Battletech, still a good game. It's a few years old. It's got a great mod community to it. Very supported, very beloved by fans of the property. So absolutely would recommend dropping some cash on it while it's like $20 to get that and all the expansions and stuff, as opposed to, you know, buying the big thing at whatever, 80 or yeah. So okay, hope y'all have a good one. Let me see if I can get y'all a raid so that I can get you some channel points. If you'll notice in the channel point section, there is a little piece down there, which is for 100,000 channel points, which I'm not gonna lie, it's a lot. You can have a guided tutoring session like you literally just saw today. And I will actually ask, before I make this raid, for those people in chat, did you find this valuable? What did you think? Positive, good, useful? Was there stuff that I missed? Was there more that could be, more that I could provide? You know, any feedback you want to kick out. Raz found it valuable. Well, I think most of chat's just fallen asleep, so it was very good, helps a lot. Good. You want to see more to give better feedback? Sure. You just got here? Ah. So, I think I'm just going to send a raid over to Kevasib. He does like to hang out in the channel, and he's just got an easygoing vibe. So, will it be on YouTube? Yes, I will. I will do that. And if you want to see, this in full, if you go to that, let me cancel the raid actually real quick. So here, let me do this. For those that missed it, that wanted to check it out, all of the past broadcasts actually exist, even the ones that are currently in, that are currently being, or currently happening. So if we look at this, probably hear me, yeah. So this right here is literally the broadcast. So if you missed it, you can just check this out. So there is the link if you want to start watching it from the beginning. If you get to the end and it runs out or something, then you can just refresh it. But that should be up to like 30 seconds to a minute ago. But okay, so I will send a raid over to Kevasib, and I might see y'all in about an hour. Might not. Yeehaw.